What is up, guys? I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're covering some r/PettyRevenge. If you'd like to skip the initial waffle, timestamps are in the description and along the timeline below, but if you are new here, please consider hitting that like, that subscribe and maybe that notification bell too, as it all really helps out our channel. And if you'd like to support further, you absolutely can by clicking that join button down below for YouTube or clicking the link in the description for Patreon, but never any pressure to do so. And just a huge thank you for taking the time out of your day to be here. Really does mean the world. And let's crack on with today's stories. Much love, guys. So this story comes from Not the Same, and it's called She Kept Stealing My Washing Powder, So I Gave Her Dye. I don't mind when my roommates borrow my stuff. We've all been there. All I ask is that they replace what they take. You drink my milk? Just buy me a new milk. It's as simple as that. Unfortunately, my roommate doesn't seem to get this. She keeps taking my stuff, and when I ask her to please replace everything she takes, she'll buy one new thing and forget to do it the next time despite having more money than me. I finally snapped when I wanted to wash my clothes, but only found an empty box that used to contain my washing powder. I don't buy fancy or expensive stuff, and I don't care about brands. After using the last of my powder a week earlier, she could literally have bought the cheapest no-brand powder in the world and I would have been fine. I just snapped. I had told her over and over to not use my washing powder if she wasn't going to replace it, and I just had enough. I bought a new box of washing powder, some Dylon machine dye, mixed it with a bit of the washing powder and dumped it in the old box. When the dye is dry, it looks like washing powder, especially if you're not expecting it. I took my new box of washing powder to my room and waited. A week later, I came home from work and saw her laundry hanging outside, all with a mysterious pink colour. She stomped up to me and demanded to know what I had done. I told her I was going to dye my own clothes, and someone had told me the shade would be lighter if I mixed it with powder. Lie. Then asked her why she had used it when it had clearly been in a box with my name on it, when I told her not to use it because she never replaced it. I don't think she believed me, but she finally got the message. She almost never takes my stuff, and when she does, she's quick to replace it. And one of my favourite things about revenge stories is people always follow it up with their own little ones. So we're going to start with, I had a flatmate that quite a few times took everyone's laundry off the clothes drying rack and would dump it in a pile just so he could hang up his own. After the third time of coming home to a pile of wet laundry that smelled damp, I had had enough. He didn't know that the rack belonged to me, and I was being kind to allow everyone in the apartment to use it, so I sold it. My office building had a laundromat, and I had a locker anyways. It was fun when he got mad and asked where's the rack, because he had just done a load. Said I was strapped for cash, so I sold it. Ended up buying a better one a few weeks later and kept it in my locker room. He walked around smelling like old towels until he eventually bought his own. The fact that he's walking around smelling like old towels pleases me greatly for some reason. And Wes says, my mum put cornmeal in a box of detergent for the same reason. We lived in a trailer park, and later that day, one of the neighbours was bitching a blue streak because someone ruined her clothes. They don't realise who the bad guy is in this story. Damn, what does cornmeal do to a washing machine? Can't be good, that's for sure. And we have one more comment with Wafer saying, that's awesome. There is a story in here somewhere about another university student whose dorm mate keeps stealing their washing soap, so they mixed it with bleach. Dorm mate came to the weekly meeting screaming someone owed him new clothes, and the RA turned around and told him he was in trouble for stealing washing soap. And this story is from another minion. Landlord always keeps security deposits. Game on. Please be gentle, it's my first story. Many moons ago, after my divorce, I saved up enough money to move from my apartment, a building with 12 units, and buy a house. I was really excited and told my favourite neighbour. He told me not to even bother trying to get my security deposit back because the landlord never returned security deposits. I turned in my notice. The landlord didn't bother to do a final walkthrough. After 30 days, I emailed her and asked about my deposit. No response. I filed a small claim court case for the deposit. This lovely lady's strategy was to hire a lawyer and bump it up to the next higher court. Most people quit after she bumped it up to the next higher court. I had some spare time and always loved a good game of strategy. I double checked with the court to make sure I could represent myself. For your information, anyone can. I then sent a certified letter to her attorney asking for a full disclosure of the evidence being presented. A huge thank you to all those TV shows that explain what a full disclosure is. A week later, I received a call from the lawyer asking what I wanted in order to avoid court settlement accomplished. The petty revenge. I let my neighbour know how to get his deposit back when he was ready to move. He let the other tenants know how to get their deposits back. OP1, landlord, minus 12. And our next story is from Trying Close to My Best. I'm sorry, who are you? Context, I've, 20 female, been bullied all my life and been in recovery for a multitude of things for the past year or so. I go to university in the same city I grew up in, so there's a high chance of me coming across people who went to previous schools or who hurt and bullied me. I was well known for being bad-tempered and easy to wind up when I was younger. What happened? I was in the pharmacy waiting to pick up my prescription when someone shouted something at me. I pretended not to hear them and they shouted again. They ended up getting frustrated and tugging on my arm. I twisted round and immediately recognised who it was. A guy, 20 male, who had bullied me for over 10 years. So rather than get angry, I thought I would mess with him and see what happens. He says, "Hi, heard you were in local uni." I said, "I'm sorry, I don't know who you are. Do I know you from somewhere?" Immediately he deflated. It was glorious to see. I had to stop myself from smiling. He said, "It's me," then says his name, "from school." "Come on, you know me." Me, with a confused face, acting 100. "I'm really sorry, but I don't know you. Did we go swimming together perhaps?" He said, "No, I don't think so." I said, "I'm really sorry, but I just don't know who you are. I think you should go to the back of the line, sir." I went on my phone and just blocked him out. He looked lost and eventually went to the back of the line. I got my prescription, ignored him, and I went to my car and drove off. I literally screamed for joy, and also because I was about to break down. It was a wonderful feeling to see him like that and to feel like he had nothing against me. To make him feel like he hadn't had a large effect on my life. Edit. I'm amazed so many people read this seeing as I wrote this in 5 minutes in an Asda car park. To the people who think he was about to be nice or that I bullied him, I have to disagree. He was never nice to me, and he would love to pretend to be nice and then pull the rug. Nothing I could do would be half as worse as what he's done to me. I don't owe him anything. Hi, edit again. Thank you for all the love and awards, it means a lot. And I just want to clarify that he didn't shout my name, but said, "Oi, Ginger." And that he was probably going to make fun of the fact I'm going to the local uni and not a better one. And Pocket Full of Uranium replies to saying, "A pure and simple revenge. His ego was the reason he was a jerk, and you got him right where it hurts." And Dragon Beat says, "This is beautiful. I hope you have a chance for revenge like this for the others that hurt you. Keep pushing through the hurt and you will become an amazing person who can look at others with compassion and empathy." And Kitty Cat says, "He's probably questioning his entire life right now, and that's amazing." And this next story comes from This Is Driving Me Batty. "Badmouth me and assume I don't speak the language? I'll kill you with kindness. Obligatory on my mobile, sorry for the formatting. I'm a light-skinned Latina American and I lived in Korea for a couple of years during university and grad school, as my major was Korean interpretation and translation. During my time in Korea, I was lucky enough to attend music shows from time to time. For the K-pop uninitiated, music shows are free to enter, provided you have at least one of 3 items. A copy of the album of the group you're coming to see. B, proof of purchase of the album digitally on one of the approved music vendors in Korea. Or C, the official light stick from the most recent concert." Wow, that's pretty cool. Priority entry was always given to the official fan club members who had all 3. Then fan club members who had 2 of the 3, and then fan club members who had 1. After that came non-members in the same priority tier. The group I had come to see hadn't opened an official fan club registration in almost a decade, so the group's management decided to do away with the fan club priority and did it on a first come, first served basis. But kept the whole 3 items go first, then 2, then 1 thing. I had all 3, and I got there early, so I got a good spot in line. These queues often had us waiting outside for hours while the previous round of filming finished up. The thing about these music show venues is they are very small. They had limited capacity and allowed 2 to 3 groups of fans to watch them film at a time, so not all people who queue for a group get in. In this particular instance, there was trouble with foreign fans causing trouble by taking pictures, not listening to instructions, so venue staff literally went through and quizzed each foreigner in line on their Korean. If you couldn't understand, you were booted. I passed with flying colours and kept my spot in line. Here's where the revenge starts. Because of the aforementioned issues, a lot of Korean fans hated international fans with a passion. For this group in particular, so many people were pissed that they had to wait in line behind foreigners because they had done away with the official fan club priority. Now here's me, sitting alone in a queue outside on a hot summer day. A group of Korean girls sat in front of me, and a lone Korean girl talking on her phone sat behind me. I was minding my own business, playing games on my phone after passing my Korean quiz with the staff, when I heard the girl behind me talking shit. She was chatting with a friend, I suspect, because she was dropping a lot of curse words, and specifically mentioned, "These foreign roaches ruining things for us, I want to kill them." She mentioned me in particular and said she bet I'd bribe the staff to keep my spot in line, even though I couldn't understand Korean. Okay, so it's harmless shit talk. I don't know this girl, and I don't know her friend. In the long run, it doesn't affect me, right? But it really rubbed me the wrong way, especially because she was talking quite loudly. So I grabbed my wallet, politely and quietly asked the Korean girls in front of me to watch my bag and hold my place in line, and went to the convenience store. I bought a round of water for everyone. I had about a dozen bottles of water. I get back to my spot in line, thanked the girls in front of me for holding my spot, then gave them each a water. I gave a water to the group in front of them too. Then I kept one for myself and turned around and handed one to the girl on the phone with a smile. Immediately she lit up and thanked me in English, smiling bright and taking her phone away from her ear. As I handed her water, I say in perfect Korean and still smiling, "The next time you loudly shit talk the foreigners, make sure they can't actually understand you." When I tell you it went silent in the immediate area, you could hear a pin drop. Her smile melted off her face faster than an ice cream cone on Florida pavement. She turned beet red and muttered to her friend on the phone that she had to go and sheepishly apologised. I accepted. She had water and I felt better about myself. Bonus, the girls in front of me heard the whole thing and adopted me into their group for the day. Fun was had all around. That's an amazing way to do it. And our next story is from Katep 2000, ruining a wedding reception for fun and profit. When I was 13, so 8 years ago, my dad remarried, after divorcing my mum 4 years before. Before the divorce, his fiancée had been his mistress. My mum is completely better off without him, and ignoring the fact that I wouldn't exist. I don't think she should have married him in the first place. Even if I think my parents weren't a good match, that's no excuse to cheat on your wife. This woman was fucking vile in all sorts of ways. She constantly belittled me, made fun of the fact that I needed to take pills for my mental illness, despite being a fucking pharmacist. I don't get it either, and was generally awful to me and my siblings. But she was a decade younger than my dad and reasonably hot, so he didn't give a shit how she treated us. The one time he actually listened to us about her is when they were thinking of having a baby, and my brother said he'd ask our mum to sue for full custody of us if they did. So anyway, they got married. I was a bridesmaid because that bitch had no real friends. The other two bridesmaids were her sister and my sister. My brother was the best man because she didn't like my dad's best friend. He and my dad still don't talk to this day, even though the guy was like an uncle to me as a little kid. It was a wedding, everything went normally. But at the beginning of the reception, before the first dance, we were taking pictures in front of a chocolate fountain, looking like the happy family we never were and would never be. I'm on the autism spectrum and have a problem maintaining eye contact. This extends to looking at a camera. So when we had to retake a photo because I wasn't looking, she leans down and whispers something in my ear. I'm not going to repeat it, but it involved the R word. I don't like saying it. Anyway, I kinda snapped and decided she was going to pay for this. No one noticed, or at least no one called me out, when I started slowly moving the chocolate fountain towards the edge of the table. When it got to the edge, it makes contact with the back of that pure white wedding dress and slowly drips down. By the time she notices, it looks like she shit herself. But for all anyone else knows, this was an accident. She has no spare dress, and that stain was not coming out, so for first dance, cutting the cake, speeches, everything, the woman has what looks like a shit stain on the back of her dress. It was a small revenge, but it was so worth it. What's supposed to be the happiest day of this stupid woman's life, and she's going to remember that stain every time she thinks about it. They never did get the stain out, and nobody knew it was me. Until now, I guess. Hi family, if you're reading this. Susie, you're a woohoo, and you deserve that chocolate stain. Thought I'd best not say that word just in case. YouTube would get me. And this story comes from Darth Vader. Take the car I paid for. Good luck finding the dead fish in it. When I was 15, I began working, and by the time I was 17, I had enough money to buy my first car. Me being young, when my egg donor and stepdad said they were titling it in their name for insurance and registration purposes, I didn't question it. 6 months later, they are divorcing. When the divorce is finalised, my egg donor informs me that my car that I paid for was going to my ex-stepdad in the divorce, since it showed a joint property between them. I was furious. The car looked nice on the exterior, but burned through a quart of oil every 2 days, and drove like crap. But it was still my car. The week before my ex-stepdad was due to pick it up, I quit putting oil in it. I drove around town extra that week. I was that smoke cloud in town of burning oil. To top off my revenge, my friend had a goldfish die. It was a pretty big fish, 3 to 4 inches long. I asked for it. The morning of the car being taken, July mind you, I cut the yellow foam beneath the passenger seat. The foam was sticky, abrasive, and resealed easily due to the stickiness. I cut the foam and stuffed the dead fish into the padding and pushed it as far over as I could. Then the foam stuck back together nicely. He showed up with his girlfriend. Girlfriend was the mistress, thus causing the divorce, and he made a big show of giving her my car as a gift to her. I just smiled. I wish I knew how well the car went over. Hours later, in the hot July weather, but I can imagine. Edit, egg donor is my bio mother, but she doesn't deserve any recognition in my life other than contributing genetic material. My bio dad is a wonderful, amazing person who was dragged through the coals for child support. He paid $150 a week in 1987, plus insurance, 50% of all insurance co-pays, had to do an additional $150 each child for school clothes, pay for school lunches, fees and book rental. He worked 8 to 12 hours a day as a plumber and part-time in a factory. He had nothing and couldn't go into futile court case with my egg donor, since back then the state didn't give custody to dads. I never told him about my life at her house, since I didn't want him to worry. Thanks for the awards. And our next story is from ZZZ Top. Won't move your patrol car to let the ambulance out. I'll let your sergeant deal with you. This happened around 4th of July. There was a small fender bender and emergency services get called out. My towing company sends me out by accident, not realising that the flatbed at the scene could tow both vehicles. There was 1 ambulance and 5 police cruisers, 3 cruisers blocking the road, 1 directing traffic, and the other arsehole who showed up after the scene was secured. Arsehole felt the need to park his cruiser crossway diagonally in front of the ambulance, not necessarily blocking the path, but if anyone has driven an ambulance, they are a pain to reverse around obstacles. The EMTs asked the a-hole to move his cruiser and he literally said, "When I'm ready," and resumes chatting with the cop directing traffic. Another cruiser shows up and it's a sergeant who knew me and the company I work for. He goes off to deal with the scene and the EMTs rush to him to talk to him about moving the cruiser. I see his stomping in my direction and then he walks to the cruiser and the door was locked. He called for the cop that pulled in front and he either didn't respond, ignore, or wasn't aware his superior was there. He looked pissed. He reached for the radio, but then he looked at me and asked what my drop fee was. 5 minutes go by and he waves to me to get the cruiser, so I lined up and sting it and dragged it out of the way and the ambulance drivers waved and left the area. He told me to keep the cruiser hooked because he wanted to teach the arsehole a lesson. He walked over to the cop directing traffic and arsehole and alerted him that he was getting towed. He rushed back and demanded I put the car down, and that's not a funny joke, but I reminded him that all tows are fair in the county if the car is illegally parked. He looked at the sergeant and the sergeant reminded him that the ordinance extends to emergency vehicles. Had to look this up. It's not. He tried to negotiate to 40, but my drop fee is 100. He hesitates, but he pulls 520s from his wallet and I put his cruiser down. He got in his cruiser and he didn't look happy as he pulled away. The sergeant burst out laughing and said that the kid needed that. He told me he's only been on the force less than a few weeks and that he was acting like he ran the place as if he was the sergeant. We shook hands and talked about work and Hot Wheels and off I went, $100 richer. And our next story is from Valiant Freak. Steal my desk, be annoyed for 30 seconds every day. It's going to get petty, guys. In my last year of my industrial design degree, I scored a paid contract at the Australian Government Scientific Organisation. Although I was only in 2 to 3 days per week, I was shown into my large empty office and told I could base myself there. The office was normally used for students, but I was the only one on this project and I had the whole office to myself, with about 6 desks. Naturally, the first task is to find the best desk and put it in the best position. Since I was going to be there for a while, I stuck some posters of my project on the wall behind my desk and even brought in some retro decor from home to add a little personality to my part of the boring brick cavern. All went well for a couple of weeks until a few other students moved into the room. Although our paths rarely crossed as they were working on other projects, two of them were perfectly reasonable and set themselves up on other desks. The third, who I will call Jerkwad because this was probably his name, decided he liked my desk. I should point out that all the desks were the same and mine had no better view than anyone else's. Mine had my stationery on it, my posters on the wall around it, a clock, a telephone, all were mine. In fact, the telephone wasn't even plugged in. I just brought it in because it was an Erica phone and they look cool. So one day I come in and Jerkwad is sitting at my desk, while the other students were at their desks. My stuff was packed up and pushed to one side to make room for his stuff. I made some comment about it being my desk and his response was, yeah, I won't be here for long, or some other blow off. To pursue it further would have made me look really petty in front of the others, since all the other desks were the same. I set myself up at another desk that day, although over the next few days I could tell my stuff had been moved around, and unless I got to the building by a certain time, he would steal my desk again. Unfortunately for Jerkwad, one of the things I brought from home was a talking wizard, talking calculator clock. It was a cheap gimmicky thing that you would see at the markets, basically a black plastic box with a button. When you press the button it would say, it's 9:05 AM. When you opened the box there was a calculator, and when you pressed each button it would say the number and read out the answer. And luckily for Jerkwad, the clock also had an alarm. When you said it, it would say beep beep beep, it is 9:05 AM, beep beep beep, it is 9:05 AM, and would keep repeating this for 30 seconds very loudly. I set the alarm to go off mid-morning, put it in my desk drawer and locked it. For extra pettiness, I also changed it to the wrong time. They were sturdy desks, 1940s era, made from silky oak with inlaid green vinyl tops. It was not possible to dismantle them or open them with a different key. I then took the key home and didn't come back for another 3 working days. When I returned, I sat at my desk, opened the drawer and turned the clock off before I could go off. When Jerkwad came in, he saw me and said, "Can you turn that bloody clock off? There's something locked in the desk and it scares the shit out of me every day and won't shut up." I was about to smash the fucking desk apart with an axe. I said something snarky like, "Sorry, it does sometimes go off when other people sit at my desk." He never stole my desk again. Ooh, you petty asshole, I love it. Once again guys, thank you for being here today. I hope you did enjoy today's stories, and if you did, you know what to do. Hit that like, that subscribe, and maybe that notification bell too, as it all really helps out our channel, and I cannot express that enough. Thank you so much for your love, support and time, and I will see you in the next one. Take care guys, much love.